everyone, this is LycanhoodReads and I'm Michaela. So it's towards the end of March and I know March isn't quite over and I still have 2 books that I'm hoping to finish before the month is over. But I wanted to go ahead and do a March wrap up just because I haven't done any videos this month except for I did a February wrap up like a couple days ago because I've been so busy during the month of March. And I never got a chance to do the February wrap-up. So I did that, talked about like The Midnight Robber, The Name of All Things, and Child of a Mad God, which I DNF'd. But now I'm talking about my reads from March, which I haven't read as much as I wanted to in March, but I think I'm doing pretty good. Like, we're all just doing our best, right? So I want to talk about that and let you know what I'm currently reading right now. So, to start out, what I began my month with was Harrow the Ninth. Probably doesn't need much of an introduction. It's all that anyone can talk about, it seems like. That's an awesome cover. So I read it on Kindle. I think I found it on sale like not too long after it came out, which was pretty surprising. But I found it on sale on Kindle, so I went ahead and bought that because I don't have Gideon the Ninth in a physical copy. And I'm one of those people that I want the series all to be the same, right? So I don't want to have a physical copy of Harrow the Ninth. If I don't have a physical copy of Gideon the Ninth, then whatever, all that. Also, I wasn't sure if I would like Harrow the Ninth because I read Gideon the Ninth and I read it on audiobook the first time and I was very on the fence about it. I don't think audiobook was the right choice for Gideon the Ninth because so many of it's particularly like the character names sound the same and I just found myself like getting lost and getting confused and I couldn't really keep up with who was who. But I read it and I knew at the end of Gideon the Ninth, I was like, this is something special. Like, it's different, it's weird. I love Gideon's humor. I just don't think I got the full effect of the novel on audiobook, and I didn't like it as much as I had wanted to, for sure, after all the hype, and as much as maybe I could have if I had read a physical copy of it. So, I went into Harrow the Ninth on the fence, unsure, and intrigued, but not excited, right? Well, let me tell you. Harrow the Ninth is amazing. Amazing. And you're probably going to hear everyone saying that, or maybe, honestly, it's such a weird book, and the way that it's written, the perspective, is probably not for everyone. And there are probably a lot of people that are going to DNF Harrow the Ninth, even if they loved Gideon the Ninth. Well, I love Harrow the Ninth even more than Gideon the Ninth. Like, it's so good. And I did not feel that way at the beginning because, it has a second-person perspective. And I hate that. I think a lot of people, I've heard a lot of other YouTubers that review it say that they hate it too. Second person's perspective is just a knife in the gut. Like, it's so disorienting and unpleasant to read, and I feel like as readers, we're just, the way we're trained to read or something is just like it rebels, everything in us rebels against that perspective for some reason. Or maybe that's just me and like a handful of others that I pay attention to, but I don't know anyone that enjoys second person in anything outside of like maybe poetry. So, yeah. Anyway, but the important thing about second person point of view is that you have to earn it, right? If it's going to be so unpleasant, if it's going to be so against what your reader expects or wants or is used to, you have to use it as a device to make the story better. And a good example is the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. She uses second person in that series, the Broken Earth trilogy. And I haven't finished the trilogy. I still have to read the Stone Sky. But I don't feel like her use of second person is earned. I see why she used it. I understand. But I don't think the payoff warrants the annoying use of second person. I trudged through the first 2 books, trudged through that second person's perspective, and I see what she was trying to do. I see what she was going for. I see why she used it, but I didn't feel that it was worth it. In Harrow the Ninth, it was worth it. I understand. I see why she used it, and I applaud her. It was a risk, and it totally paid off. I don't want to spoil anything for Harrow the Ninth. I'll just say that if you start it and you can't handle like how confusing or how jumbled or how weird the perspectives are, if you can't handle the two-person or you think you can't, try to push through. Try to keep going because it is such a good book. It's so funny and intriguing and upsetting at the same time and just weird. And at the end, like, I don't know, it hits a point where it's just like, oh shit, this is good, right? And I feel like anyone that gets to that point is going to feel that way. It's just that a lot of people aren't going to make it there because it is a difficult book to read, and it's a lot to ask of your readers, especially of like a casual reader, to trudge through this confusing first half or first maybe even like 3/4 to get to the good stuff. But oh, the good stuff is so good. So those are my thoughts. Like that's my thought on Harrow the Ninth. I don't want to spoil anything. It's been out for a little while now, but the effect of this story is just so good, I wouldn't want to ruin it for anyone. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, Gideon the Ninth and Harrow the Ninth, definitely check those out. They're not for everyone, but it's lesbian necromancers in space is sort of the tagline. But it's a space opera and a murder mystery and a love story and like an enemies to lovers sort of thing. It's just a wild ride, and I highly doubt that anyone that read Gideon the Ninth, or I highly suggest reading both of them if you can. I doubt anyone that makes it through both the books is going to regret it. They might not love it the way that a lot of people do. Like, these books they've been very popular and very successful. But even if you don't love them, I think you will come to appreciate this story that Mir, I think I'm saying her name right, the author, that she's telling, and the way she's telling it, and just how bold and out of the box she is. And I think even if it's not your cup of tea, if it's not your favorite thing, I think anyone can come to appreciate how balls to the wall that she went with it. I don't have much more to say than that. It's great. Loved it. Kudos to her. Go read it. It's enjoyable for the most part. As a whole, it's enjoyable. Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. It's a little like queer rom-com, YA rom-com sort of thing. I think it was it came out last year. I think it was pretty popular towards the beginning of the year, and it was on my TBR for a while. It reminds me a lot of Red, White, and Blue, if anyone read that. I like to read, these sort of like YA teen rom-coms every once in a while, maybe once a month or so, because it's just like a good palate cleanser, right? And it's really fun for me to read at work, because I don't have to pay too much attention to the story. Like, yeah, I'm paying attention to the story, but I don't have to hang on every word. And there's not like a world to build because it's like contemporary, realistic fiction. And they're just super enjoyable. I really liked Boyfriend Material. It was hilarious. Back in February, I read the Falling in Love montage. I think they're very similar. They go really well together. They're both so funny. And I love a book, especially an audiobook, that can make me laugh while I'm at work, because I really need that while I'm at work. But highly recommend Boyfriend Material. Don't have a lot to say about it. It's just sort of enemies to lovers, fake dating trope, which is always good stuff. It's British, and anyone that's seen Notting Hill with Hugh Grant and anyone that likes Notting Hill with Hugh Grant is gonna love the tone of this book, especially the audiobook. I recommend reading it on audiobook because it really enhances the experience. I love the British accents, and it's so fun. Same with Falling in Love montage. Falling in Love montage takes place in Scotland, Ireland. One of those. I'm sorry. I know they're different. I can't remember. It was like a month ago, but and the accents and the humor and the atmosphere is just great for both of those. boyfriend material is great for fans of Red, White, and Blue or Falling in Love Montage, or anyone that just likes those YA queer quick rom-com reads. Highly recommend. That's by Alexis Hall. I also am still trudging along on my Witcher read. Let's see. So I finished The Tower of Swallows just a few days ago. It is technically book 4 in the main saga of The Witcher. So that's not including like the short story series. I read the books, or I've been reading the series in order of publication. So that starts with The Last Wish, and then I have it here on the back, a little cheat sheet. So The Last Wish, Sword of Destiny, Blood of Elves, Time of Contempt, Baptism of Fire, and then Tower of Swallows. So that means I technically only have 2 books left. This series has been daunting and enjoyable, and I like it, and I liked this book, but I was just really busy in the month of March, and it's not that it was boring. It was maybe more boring than some of the other books in this series, but it was a lot of people traveling and like misunderstandings, and it starts off with Ciri telling a story of what's happened the last several months since the last book, so it's a big time jump, and the whole book is her telling you what has happened since the last book, over the last several months. And that, in some ways, is frustrating, just because you're like, okay, let's get to it, right? Let's get to it. And this book does very much feel like a way stop between the events of Baptism of Fire and what's going to happen next in Lady of the Lake. And it just feels like, it's like one of those episodes of television when they're just recounting things that have happened in the series. It's like a walk down memory lane sort of thing. This isn't a walk down memory lane, but I feel that same vibe and that same frustration where I'm like, let's get to the good stuff. And that's what this felt like for sure. But I finally finished it. I haven't started Lady of the Lake yet. I'm going to read it on audiobook. The Emperor's Blade by Brian Staveley. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right. Brian Staveley, The Emperor's Blade. So I stumbled across this book back when I read Kings of the Wild. So when I read Kings of the Wild and Bloody Rose, I just loved those so much that I wanted more of that vibe. Like, it was such a unique vibe, Kings of the Wild. The tone of the book, the humor was so unique, and I just wanted more stuff like that. So I think I was going on like Goodreads, or just, I was just looking for recommendations that were sort of similar. And this was one of them. I'm not sure why it was one of them, honestly. I'm most of the way through this book, like over halfway. I think I only have a quarter left on audiobook. About 4 hours left. And it's not like Kings of the Wild. I don't know why I thought that. It's a fantasy book, but it's not, it doesn't have any of those same vibes. It doesn't have like a gang or a team, or what do you want to call it? In Kings of the Wild, it's a band. But it doesn't have those like found family vibes. It's about, but I still like it. Don't get me wrong. I'm really, really enjoying this book. More so than I expected to, honestly. It's about 3 imperial siblings, 2 brothers and a girl, a sister. And they have all been separated for like the last 8 years of their life, essentially. So the oldest boy, the prince, he's the heir to the throne. He was shipped off to a monastery, like at the ends of the earth in the mountains, to be trained by these monks in like a philosophical and religious like mindset. It's all about like clearing of the mind and like focusing and, monk stuff, like living a clean, higher life or something. I don't know. So he's been there since he was about 10 years old or something, like 8 years, a long time. And this is in preparation for him to one day take the throne from his father. It's unclear to me how long he's supposed to be there at the monastery. 8 years seems like a long time, and he's still just a novice, so he hasn't learned everything he should. And that's Caden. His name's Caden. His perspective and his story for most of this book so far is very isolated from the rest of the kingdom in front of everything else that's happening. And it's just a lot of suffering. So it's like all the worst things you've heard about monasteries or monks or nuns, where it's just like, you know, he has to do chores and he has to do a lot of, some would say, unnecessary physical and menial labor, like digging holes for no reason or like carrying buckets of water up a mountain. And this is all in some effort to teach him these mysterious religious philosophical lessons that are supposedly going to help him be a better person and a better emperor one day. And his brother, I think it's his younger brother, I'm not, anyway, the one that's not the heir to the throne, he is training to be this empire's most elite kind of soldier. They're called the Ketrao. And they are not like typical soldiers. I think it's more akin to sort of like Navy SEALs or like Marines or something. So where they're special operatives made to do like covert, assassination, rescue, spy missions sort of thing. So this is like the elite of their military. And he has also been here 8 years training to do this since he was a young child. They separated at the same time that Caden went to the monastery. Valen went to this cadet training, and he's been a cadet for 8 years. And they haven't seen their father, they haven't seen their sister, they haven't been home in all this time while they've been away. Their mother died some time ago. And Valen's story is a very like military fantasy sort of story. Most of it so far has been cadet training leading up to their final tests, like a graduation test, to see if they have what it takes to be a Ketrol. But he is the first to hear about his father's death. So the emperor has died at the beginning of the book, and it sort of launches this huge conspiracy that Valen believes is unfolding, and he feels that he's in danger. So while he's a cadet trying to train for this test and like just survive his training and become a Ketrol, he's also worried about this so-called conspiracy that he believes killed his father, and is now trying to kill him and his brother, of course. So there's a lot of murder mystery elements to Valen's story, whereas his brother Caden is clueless. So this monastery that he's at, it's so isolated and it's so out of the way that they don't get news of the emperor's death for a very, very long time. And so he's clueless up in the mountains, just like going about his business, being a monk or learning to be a monk. And he doesn't know that the danger that he might be in or that the empire might be in. And the sister, I'm sorry guys, I can't remember her name right now. She is in it the least. She's in the book the least. We've probably only been in her perspective a handful of times, and I'm most of the way through the book. I can't remember her name. But she is in the capital of the empire, so she wasn't sent away as a kid. So she's the one that has inevitably been like closest to the emperor, closest to their father. And my vibes are that she is probably the one that is most capable of inheriting the throne. She's a woman, so of course she's not the heir to the throne, but the vibe that I'm getting from her is that she would make an excellent empress if they would give her a chance. Because she's been there, like training, unofficially training under her father in the art of like politics and diplomacy and all of that sort of stuff. And she's in the capital. She knows the players essentially in the game. But we haven't gotten much from her story so far. It's mostly been about trying to figure out who killed the emperor. He was assassinated. Who killed him? Why they killed him? And like how to keep the empire under control and keep the throne safe until Caden, her brother, can be reached so that he can sit on the throne. Because again, it's going to take a very long time to get to Caden. So we're alternating between these three perspectives, mostly the boys, the brothers. And honestly, like, not a lot has happened. Valen's perspective is definitely the most, like, action-packed because he's at a military school. But plot-wise, not a lot has happened. We're just, for most of the book, we're waiting where you're waiting for Caden to find out that the Emperor has died and to go ascend the throne, and that hasn't happened yet because it's taking so long to get to this monastery. But despite the fact that not much has happened, I'm really enjoying it. Like, I don't know, I really like it. I like the world. I don't have anything specific to say about the world. It's just sort of like a typical fantasy world, except that the military has these giant birds that they use to fly and travel and fight. I'm not even sure how big the birds are, but big ass birds that they can fly on, like multiple, like a whole brigade of people can fly on. I don't know. And I like the characters, especially Valen is my favorite so far. He's the soldier. And I feel bad for him because like he's just doing the most, and he has like bad luck, and he feels that there's this conspiracy against him, and he feels like everyone is out to get him. I don't know if that is accurate yet. I haven't finished the book. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but I feel bad for him because he's just like scared out of his mind and frustrated and trying so hard, but he's very unlucky. So that's what I have to say about him. And the book's, it's a bit funny. Like, it's not as funny as like The Ruin of Kings or Kings of the Wild, but it has its own little kind of branch of humor, especially Valen's section, because he's surrounded by like soldiers and they sort of banter a lot, I guess you could say. But yeah, so I'm enjoying this one. I might do like a more in-depth review when I'm finished with it. But I like it. Yeah, that's what I'm reading right now. I'm hoping to finish that one before the end of the month, but that's only a couple days away, so I'm not sure. I mean, I only have 4 hours left, but also like I'm lazy, so I might not get to it. The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. Now, if you've been watching, you probably know that I'm super excited about this book. It was on a lot of like most anticipated releases, most anticipated fantasy, most anticipated queer fantasy. It's just everything that I'm here for, and I waited and I got it on the day it came out. I am slightly over halfway through. I'm right here. And I'm loving it so far. I've been trying to read a little bit every day because I do want to finish this before the month's over. I don't know if that will happen, but I want to, and I'm trying my hardest. So, but it is so good. I don't want to say too much about it here, because I think I'll do a whole review video just on this one. Or maybe I'll combine the Emperor's Blade and this one in a review video. Just to tell you a little bit about what it's about. A child soldier who was stolen from her homeland. Not at birth, but like when she was a young child, and she was raised in this military like cadet program, and she's been fighting, you know, like in another country, in other countries for her whole life, for the same empire that stole her away as a child. And she's become very devoted to them. She is brought back to her homeland, the city of her birth, as that is a colony, essentially, to this empire that she serves. And coming back to her homeland stirs up a bunch of stuff, political, emotional stuff. And she kind of gets dragged into this intrigue of this rebellion that's happening in her homeland, and she and her friends and the other people she's grown up with as soldiers, child soldiers, they are caught in the middle. So they're basically being asked to fight against their own oppressed people, which, as you can imagine, is troubling. So I don't want to say much more than that, except that it's gay. It's very casually gay, which I love. It's like desert vibes. I'm not sure what country it's emulating exactly. I'd have to do some research, but it's so good. I'm enjoying it so much, and I can't wait to talk more about it. So that's going to be my March wrap-up, I guess. Hopefully I finish both this and The Emperor's Blade. If that's the case, I will have read 5 books in March, which, you know, wasn't my goal, but what can you do? Just reading here. So you guys have a great day. I'll see you for an April TBR before too long, I hope. And see you next time.